number of simple things. We've created an engaging learning experience building on core edX. We've added performance metrics. We've created additional types of X blocks and interactive exercises. We've also pushed social learning in groups. As I said before, edX sits at the core of what we do. We spent a bunch of time in Boston with the engineering team. And what we've been able to do is to create a series of courses and programs that sit out there in the market. And we've been launched formally for about 6 months now with a global cohort of learners that have given us a pretty terrific time for our data scientists, a massive amount of data. And from an edX point of view, the confidence that the platform is a good platform. So let me talk about the architecture for a second. This is an architecture slide. It means I sort of understand the technology and can talk broadly about it, but I can't code to save my life. So what we essentially did was we took the core of edX and we built our own front end. We built an analytics processing component and we enhanced the authoring tools. We also extended some of the databases on the back. We have been pretty active with edX and other ecosystem engineering partners, and the little two-headed arrow on the back over there for GitHub basically indicates that we've been giving back to the community. So hopefully that's a good thing. We've created a number of elements that we can talk about offline that we think have added to the pedagogy, added to the overall learning capabilities. What I wanted to do was focus on the lessons we've learned. So there are 10, and boy is that a boring slide. So I'm going to jazz it up a bit. Okay? So 10 lessons learned. The first one I think we learned when we started thinking about this was it's important to position for the next EdTech model and to embrace a platform that's extensible and flexible, even if it isn't completely complete. And when we made the decision, there was some who said, maybe not the smartest move, but what we've been able to do is to validate and extend that. So the second thing we learned was that as soon as one can, it's important to test with learners. So McKinsey Keany started in August the 1st, 2013. 12 weeks later, we had built our first platform and course. This was not an edX, but we were still negotiating with them. But it really was a very simple MVP. It tested the core pedagogy that we believed in. It allowed us to author and present a course. We literally used 3 guys in Brooklyn to develop this, and we launched it with one of the McKinsey partners, but it was not branded McKinsey because we simply wanted to test. Without any publicity, we got several thousand people to engage with this. So huge amount of data, get in the market, connect with learners, understand what they want, you'll be surprised. Another lesson we've learned, I think, is to push hard to secure the real learner archetypes that you want. We, in our first beta, we got our friends and family, come on in, there's plenty of room. What ended up happening is we got interesting data, and we also got data from people who really weren't our learner archetypes, and therefore created some confusion around product, created some confusion around how we should deal with them. So think about who your real learner archetypes are and make the efforts to select them rather than just letting everybody in. McKinsey likes data. We very early on started thinking very robustly about data, and we drove that into the platform, spent a good deal of time scrutinizing that data, but we also allowed not only the left brain analytical components, but sometimes we went with gut instinct, and I would encourage you that it's not all about the analytics. There are some gut instinct elements that will help you fairly quickly get to what you want. One of the other things we did was we very early on, Bruno gets this side. Right. This notion of building for both the program owner and the participants is a pretty key point. So
program owner on the left with the top hat, participants in the middle in the workhouse. But more seriously, the idea was not simply to say, we're going to have a lot of learners who come to this platform, let's build an experience for them. There are individuals who are funding the program, who are doing analytics on it, and it's important for us to, and it was very important for us to think about that program owner experience as well as the learner experience. The other thing that we did was we created a mindset that was really trial and error in this model. We called out failures fairly clearly. We also took an approach of essentially playing the ball, not the man, another British soccer reference, but essentially, if I had an idea that was wretched, we talked about how to improve the idea, not about scolding me. And we took the time to celebrate successes. For extra points, who's that guy? Great. For extra points, who's the guy to his left? Nicholas Tesla. The next one. And we launched with a really simple learning journey. It's critical in our view that one thinks simply about what is that first program or set of courses or learning experience that is pure and allows us to get to the market without necessarily creating the product line extension or the course variant or this and that. So creating a very simple learning journey that one can test immediately was important. Oh, that's interesting. Number 8. The inverse of what I said. Whilst focusing robustly on just a single idea, it was really important for us to have ways for the broader ecosystem, our colleagues, other McKinsey people, other learners, other clients to provide influence on the product roadmap and on the course roadmap. So knowing when to say no, knowing when to open the conversation up is another key piece. Another element that was important for us was to think about who are our champions. We tried to, but did not consistently, select customers who had a pretty high tolerance for risk, who basically said, I embrace the idea of McKinsey Academy, even though it's not necessarily completely finished yet. The iPhone guy on one end, rather than, let's call them the technology laggard, who's sitting on the other end. So think a little bit about who you get in bed with, who your early customers are, and where they sit on that continuum. And then the last thing we did was we really spent a lot of time thinking about competitors, and we also spent a lot of time standing in the shoes of the customers. At least once a week we have this exercise we go through, which is a customer empathy, where we think about being a learner, and we think about what the experience is for them, rather than simply thinking about it for ourselves. Done it again. So 10 lessons learned. Hopefully you got something out of that. We're McKinsey Academy. We're built on edX, and we're actually quite happy with that.